close. All right. Couple more minutes, and we will get started. Yeah, so I'm right there. So when you guys are in town, just let me know. It was so funny because when your parents come down to the golf outing, they're always like, we both had to drive this far to see each other when we were in England. And I'm like, yeah, that's essentially it. And at one point when I was having my fence put in a couple years ago, they showed up to the golf outing, and your mom was like, all right, you gotta tell me what's going on in your front lawn, because we've been curious for weeks, and she's like, we're gonna see Patty, and we didn't know what's going on. It was really fun. Yeah, one time we met all of them at the ice cream place. My kids did.
Oh yeah?
But it was, yeah, it was right there for a little ice cream. You guys don't know what we're talking about. Laura's parents live next door. And Laura and my parents, so Laura is my parents' sister. And they go to visit.
We'll do that next time.
Please.
7 degrees. Yeah, that's right.
All right, we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. Anybody go to the Heinz Museum last night? Was it fun?
Yeah.
Did you get a pickle? So apparently, if you did all of the activities and visited all the stations, you got like this little pickle pin.
Oh yeah.
Right?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's the Heinz Museum,
Yeah.
and they make pickles, so that makes sense to me. But it's funny because I ran into several people who had the pickle pin last night. And I was like, oh, you got a pickle pin. I didn't go, so they hadn't come in my gloves. But I have a pickle ornament on my Christmas tree. That's a German thing, right? Have you heard of that? So it's a custom in Germany to actually bring a real pickle and hang it up people's Christmas tree. My brother-in-law, who since passed away, was married to a German woman. She gave us a pickle for our Christmas tree. So that's what I thought the pin was for, and they were like, no, it was because we visited all the stations. Okay.
They give this out at every summer pickle fest.
No doubt.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, I guess we're getting ready to get started. How's everybody doing? Good? All right. One last call for this. If you haven't already done it, please take a picture or go ahead and scan that QR code. The idea is that you fill out a form, you'll get an immediate email that says, thanks for coming, click on this link on the 27th and you'll get the resources. If you click that link now, you'll get the resources from last week, because I haven't had a chance to collect all of the presentations from everybody who presented here this week. But if I will send a follow-up email with the correct link in it for the P&C resources. So go ahead and make sure that you do that. And also at the end of the session, I'll give out a little prize to somebody who's still in the room who was here when we started. Sound good? All right. Everybody got it? Yeah, you're fine. Okay. So this is Tech-ifying Instructional Strategies. My name is Patty Duncan. There is my contact information. You might also want to write that down. You can follow me on Twitter at YoYoSciTeach. Just a little bit about that in case you were wondering. Before coming to work with Discovery Education, which I've been doing for 12 years, I was a high school chemistry and physics teacher. So I was a science teacher. I still am a science teacher, I'll say that. I would come in on the first day of school and I would say to the kids, hi, my name is Mrs. Duncan, and they'd say, like the donut, and I'd say, no, like the yo-yo, and then they'd say, what's a yo-yo? But that's how I became YoYoSciTeach on Twitter. Feel free to follow me. We have great conversations. And my email, my Discovery Ed email is there if you have any questions about your account. If you have any questions about Discovery Ed. Is there anybody here who knows they do not have a Discovery Education account? Okay, that's all right, because the things I'm going to share today, they are instructional strategies which, once you get these slides, you'll be able to replicate them regardless of whether you have our resources or other resources. But if at the end of the session you're like, damn, I really wish I had Discovery, you email me and I'll put you in touch with the right person, right? So this session is entitled Tech-ifying Instructional Strategies, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the ways that you can design instruction using some specific strategies that Discovery Education has for our users to develop skill sets and use technology, in particular in multi-modes of fashion. So using images, videos, sound effects, songs, instead of just the written word text for the information. And this particular session not only talks about the strategies, but towards the end, this latter half of this session, we're going to take those strategies and look at ways that members of our community, our Discovery Education community, has assigned that strategy to a specific tech tool. So how do I do this strategy using Flipgrid? Or how do I do this strategy using Wordle? Or how do I do this strategy using Answer Garden? And things like that. So that's the goal of what we're going to do. You do not need to have a Discovery Education account for this session, because you're going to get lots of information about just good instruction. But I am going to be showing folks around Discovery Education to find out where they can find their resources if they have them. If you do have a Discovery Education account, I implore you to go back and have a conversation around student usage. Most of our accounts in Pennsylvania are currently underutilizing their access to Discovery Education. And by that I mean, when you have a Discovery Education license, everyone in your building has a Discovery Education license. And that includes your students, your guidance counselors, your nurse, your janitors, whomever you want to put on the list. And most schools are not using their student accounts. And you're missing out on half the functionality of what you have. It's not an additional cost. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're trying to get you to use the tool that you have to the best of its ability. It's like using an Instant Pot when you boil eggs. Just saying. All right? So, if you do not have student accounts, and I'm not looking to see who's not in your head, but if you're in a school district that's still all using the same username and password, please let's update your account access so that everyone has their own individual account. You're not saving money by doing that. Just saying. It's not an individual license, it's a per building license. So everybody in your building can have their own individual accounts. You can customize your landing page. You can create your own assignments. Your students can go in and take assessments that you create, but not unless you have individual accounts. So please take a quick snapshot of that, and or on your way out, come up and grab one of these flyers about how you can set it up so that we can update your system so that everybody has their own account. Okay? All right. Enough of that. One last commercial. If you weren't aware, over the summer, Discovery Education had a name change. We went from Discovery Education Streaming to Discovery Education Experience. So, if you happen to be in a district, and I got my eyes closed again, if you happen to be in a district where they're still calling it United Streaming, you're 2 names behind now. Just saying. So, if you do nothing else, go back and tell somebody to change that icon, because that icon is 25 years old. All right? However, Discovery Education Experience, we changed the name because Discovery Education Streaming had a connotation for streaming video. And we wanted people to understand that there was so much more than streaming video. So we changed it to Discovery Education Experience. And if you go to this link, you can get one of these bulletin board kits mailed to you. The bulletin board kit can be hung in your faculty room, by your Xerox machine, in your library, wherever is a good place for your staff to see it. And it basically updates people about what they have as far as their Discovery Education account is concerned. And you'll get an email once a month with updated resources to add to the bulletin board. So go ahead and apply, one per building, for a bulletin board kit to help us spread the word, because The number one reason districts drop discovery education is lack of usage. And to me, in my work with Pennsylvania, the number one reason for lack of usage is because people don't know what they're losing. So if you don't use it, you might lose it, and we don't want you to lose it. I can't tell you how many conversations I had this week with people who used to have it and don't anymore, and cry every day, right? And I say, you have to give us a chance to show people what it is that they dropped, because they just don't know. They think it's a place where you log in and get Magic School Bus videos. But it's so much more than that. All right, enough of the commercials. Let's talk about some strategies, shall we? All right. So let me jump out really quick to go live. How many people have not seen this view of Discovery Education? This is the new landing page that happened in July when we became Discovery Education Experience. All right. We did 2 years of testing and getting feedback from people. We did a study. And we asked people, what's your favorite thing about Discovery Education? What's your pain points about Discovery Education? And hands down, one of the pain points was navigation. So we simplified navigation. And we made it a lot easier to find things. One landing page, the strip across the top is your main navigation and takes you to your content, your tools, and your support systems. All right? And everything at the bottom of the page, the My DE part, that's customizable and personalized to you, because that was the number 2 thing. We want it to be what's important to us. So when you find channels that you like, you subscribe to them and they end up on your My DE page. And I'm going to show you how that works in a minute. All right? Everybody see how that works? So this is what it looks like now, and we're going to specifically go into Discovery Education instructional strategies. Everybody see this teal button over here? So these are our SOS strategies. How many people have seen SOS before? A couple of you. All right. So these are our SOS strategies. About 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, we were at a summer institute where we gathered teachers together. And a bunch of them were sitting around at lunch and they were saying, how do you use video clips? How do you use images? How do you use sound? And a colleague of mine, Janita, was walking past the table and somebody reached up and said, Janita, we're getting really great ideas here. You should come sit down and write them down. And she turned back and she said, no, Susan, you should write them down. And so Susan did. Susan got a committee together and they put together these 125 different strategies. There's things that people have been doing in their classroom for years. But kind of the write-ups are tailored to specifically using multi-modes of content, things like video, images, sound effects, songs, and the like. And you'll notice that they're broken down into buckets, okay? And those buckets have nothing to do with specific content and everything to do with what are you trying to achieve instructionally? What are you trying to do with your instruction? I had somebody in my last session tell me that's deep. Yes. We need to move a little deeper in our instruction. We need to consider not just the content we're covering, but how are we exposing the students to it so that they're developing skills? Because skills are a big part of our standards and we tend to ignore them, right? And so the idea is here, if I want students to learn about the rainforest, what activities can I do that as they're learning the facts about the rainforest, they're also learning how to get facts, how to research, how to summarize. That's the idea of these strategies. All right? And so as I go and I pick a category of the strategies, let's pick key ideas and details, for example. How do we have students pulling information from the information we present to them? All right? And then you'll notice that as I click on any one of these, if I click on, I don't want to do AEIOU because we're going to do it later, so we'll do 25 things you didn't know. All right? When I click on 25 things you didn't know, you'll see that there is an overview video that explains to you the strategy that's been recorded by somebody in our community. And that overview video will give you all of the information you need to know. What is the strategy? How long does it take? What kind of resources does it work best with? What kind of materials do you need? All of these kinds of things, an extension activity, what can it look like?
You can create.
So that video will do that for you, but you also have under classroom materials a PDF version of the activity that you can read and kind of surmise what to do as well. All right? So you have both two ways, two modes of getting the information because we are Discovery Education after all, right? So we have both a video and a PDF that explains the activity. Last thing I'll say, or two last things I'll say about this particular concept before I start doing some examples. When you are in your instructional strategies main collection, before you click on a subject area or a skill set, if you scroll down, you'll find a couple of things. The first horizontal row, these are brand new. And when I say brand new, they went live last week. These are student-facing videos that introduce the activity. So if you wanted to do an activity with students and you didn't necessarily want to explain it to them, or you wanted them to have this fun introduction, you would play the video for the students and it would explain to them what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. Hopefully. Because the internet's been a little spacey here. Alright, we're going to let that go. Now here it goes. Cool music.
Close your eyes.
And so it talks them through the activity, gives them, tells them exactly what to do, and so on and so on and so on. All right. So those student-facing videos, there are 6 of them now, but there will be more. Yes.
Are these videos embeddable in like an outside LMS like Canvas?
Yes.
Okay.
So for that particular, for any of our resources, once you get to a page like this, over on the right-hand side, you're going to see these 3 dots. And you can share, assign, add it to your My Content or download. The share is where you can copy a link and or drop it into Office 365 or Google Classroom or any of these other places. The caveat is the student needs to be able to log in to follow it. So hence my little soap opera speech a little bit ago about getting kids in, right? So yes. And you can also put it in your My Content. You can throw it into one of our board builders and things like that, yes. All right? All right, just below that horizontal row, in your main collection space, are graphic organizers. So some of the strategies require or have the students recording information. And so we've created a set of the graphic organizers that go along with the strategies, so that if you didn't want to necessarily have them write it down in their notebook, you could print out the graphic organizer, and it can act somewhat as a scaffold because the students, even though the video or your instructions might say do this, the graphic organizer has all of the information they need. Yes, Laura.
So the 6-word story graphic organizer, is that linked yet onto the 6-word story?
It will be. It's not yet.
Okay.
Great question. So the reason that we have a separate row of graphic organizers is because right now we're working on those PDFs to kind of streamline them. The original set of PDFs were 2 and 3 pages long, including the graphic organizers. And a lot of people were like, I don't want to print all that out. So we're separating out the graphic organizers so that it doesn't automatically come as a page 2 or 3 to the strategy unless you want it to. So you'll have the strategy and then you'll have the graphic organizer. And as soon as those are finished being done, they'll get linked back. But great question, Laura. Thank you. All right. And then the last thing I want to say about the collection before we talk about some specific strategies, if I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, you'll see our SOS top 10 lists. So top 10 for STEM thinking, top 10 for differentiating instruction, top 10 for developing literacy in all subject areas. And so this is kind of a way of saying, where do I start with the SOSs? Well, I am focusing on differentiating my instruction right now. I'm going to look at the top 10 for differentiation. And then one of the most important things I can say about the SOS strategies, I don't know a single educator who uses more than, say, 10 of them in a year, right? And they get really comfortable with them, and then they add another one to their toolbox. And then they get really comfortable with it, and then they add another one to their toolbox. Don't think that the expectation is that you're using all 120. You're using the ones that work for you and your students today. And tomorrow might be a different strategy, and the next day might be different. But I will say, if all you do all year long are AEIOU, the students are going to get bored with that just like they're going to get bored with anything else. So part of the reason we did the strategies was to mix it up a little. And then we're going to talk later about incorporating the other acts, and then that takes it up another notch, right? Sound good? All right. All right, so let's talk about just a couple examples of what this could look like. And then we'll talk about the different technologies that you can add. That's just the video, that's the PDF. All right, so this one's called 3 Truths and a Lie. Has anybody heard 3 Truths and a Lie before? Sure you have. Jimmy Kimmel stole it. He does it all the time, right? But 3 Truths and a Lie is one of my favorite strategies because it's one of those things that can be done 10 different ways easily, right? And first of all, this example is done with a video, but can be done with any piece of information in any format. That's one thing. Second thing is, the way I have set it up was that I downloaded the video clip and embedded it in my PowerPoint slide with the facts next to it. But you're going to see later that there are really great ways that you can use other apps to do this, as well as ways to kind of like mix it up. So 3 Truths and a Lie is really easily scaffoldable. By that I mean, I've got the video here, I've got the 4 facts. You're going to notice in a second that those 4 facts are in the same order they appear in the video, right? I do it this way a couple of times and then I start to mix it up so that they don't get used to starting at the top and working their way down. They have to absorb those facts. A lot of times with the kids, after I've done this a couple of times, I'll then say, first we're going to write these 4 facts in the notebook so that they process the information and then they're watching intently to listen for information instead of looking at their paper or looking, right? Then you can scaffold it even more. You can go beyond that and stop writing the facts word for word the way the information is presented in the video and rewording them so that now they have to process the information first and then listen for stuff that's going to back up that fact or say it's a lie based on really listening instead of just listening for phrases, right? So this is one of those that you could certainly change up depending on what age level you have, depending on what skill level you have, readiness, and things like that. So let's watch this video and see if we can't figure out which one's the lie.
Fungi are among the most numerous and varied organisms on the planet. They reproduce by sending out millions of spores. And wherever those spores land, new fungi emerge. The part of the fungus that we can see, like the mushroom, is the reproductive body. Most of the action happens out of sight. Fungi survive on cells of other living things. Often they form symbiotic relationships with animals, plants, or algae. Relationships in which both partners benefit from the arrangement. This tree has been invaded by a fungus, which eats the dead matter inside the trunk, allowing more nutrients to go to the branches. By hollowing out the tree trunk, the fungus provides a home for bats, whose droppings help feed the tree. Fungi also...
All right, so if you think number 1 is the lie, put up a 1. If you think number 2 is the lie, put up a 2. If you think number 3 is the lie, put up a 3. If you think number 4 is the lie, put up a 4. If you're not playing, put up a 5. I didn't get anybody to play that put up a 5. See, I like to say that. Like, if you're not playing, put up a 5, and then put up a 5, you're playing. So we vote, I think, primarily 2, and that is accurate. And so here's another extension on this, right? I have my kids write down all 4 facts in their notebooks before we do it, and then I have them identify which one they think is a lie before I ask for a poll by rewriting the statement that they think is a lie to be factual, and then I do the poll, right? So then this way, they're not just following the trend, they're identifying and thinking before they see what everybody else thinks, right? So that's a strategy to do. And again, you can use video content, but you can also use charts, diagrams, reading passages, sound effects, songs, podcasts. Podcasts are a really great one because you want to talk about developing listening skills. There's nothing to watch. You have to listen when you're doing a podcast. In fact, when you're doing a podcast in Discovery Education, specifically, if I come up here and I click here and I do a blanket search and then I filter audio files, hopefully, and I filter audio and I choose podcast, you're going to see that not only is there nothing to watch, it's like almost hypnotizing. It's like this little squiggly line thing, like the sound file, and so literally they have to listen really well, right? Now you could also download the podcast and put up an image if you want to give them something visual to look at, or you could just play it, right? That's probably going to start playing on me. All right, so let's do this one. Half the story. Take any image. It doesn't matter what image. It doesn't matter whether it's an historical event, the water cycle, a math problem. It doesn't matter. Take any image, and what you're going to do is expose them to the information in little pieces. Okay? So let's pretend you don't know who this is. If I asked you, what do you see? What do you think is going on? What are you going to say? Pretend you don't know. What is it? A little girl going to school. So how do we know it's a little girl? She has a dress on, so it's probably a little girl. You gotta ask that these days, right? Because some students don't necessarily identify certain genders with certain outfits. So we're making an assumption this is a little girl because she's wearing a dress. Okay? We say she's going to school. Why? She's got a school bag of some sort. Okay, this is the school bag you're saying. Okay? Let me ask you a question. I want you to think about what you're saying to me. You're saying she's going to school. Does everybody agree with that phrase? No. What do you think? She's coming out of the building. What piece of information tells you she's coming out of the building? She's going down the steps. Okay, good. So that's really important information to understand. Did this happen yesterday? When do you think it happened? A long time ago, 50s, 60s, whatever. The kids won't say a number, but they'll say a long time ago. Why do you think it happened a long time ago? The way she's dressed, it's a black and white photo. I can take a picture of kids right here, put it up in black and white, and they'll say, oh, that happened a long time ago. Well, I just took it. Right? When they see black and white, they automatically think a long time ago. All right, and the way she's dressed. Any other clues if this is a long time ago? The way she's dressed? Black and white, the bag. That's not a common school bag anymore, right? It was at one point, but it's not anymore. All right. One last question I'm going to ask you. We have decided she's coming from school. Are there any other options? Could she be walking out of a different kind of building besides the school? Just to keep our mind open. Yeah. Sure. What other kind of buildings have stairs like that? Churches, libraries, courthouses, like the steps of the Washington Monument. Not the Washington Monument, that's enough steps. But the Lincoln Monument, things like that, right? Okay. Let's get a little bit more of the story, shall we? Now what? Do we still think she's coming from school? Look at the doors behind her. Could be, right? But it still could be a church or a government building or a library. What does the addition of the person behind her tell us? What's that? Probably not a relative. Why do you say that? Because they're different skin colors. Okay, but it could be. Could be. What do you think his job is? He has a badge. He's somebody official. Is it possible that they both happen to be living in the building at the same time and it's not connected? It's possible. So it's an option we should keep our minds open to. But is it also possible that he is, for some reason, with her? That's possible too. I can tell you when I do this with the kids, they think she's in trouble. They think she's being escorted out to school because in today's day and age it happens that young. Right? And they don't understand that it didn't happen as often back when this picture was taken. So he's some sort of official, and if you look really closely, you'll see there's somebody else with sunglasses watching them. So maybe they are together, there's something going on, right? Let's get a little bit more information. Does that help us understand any more of what's going on? A little. It still looks like she's in trouble. I might even say she's at a police station, yes? Right? I see an officer. She could be at a federal building of some other sort. It could be a security guard. It could be a bank, right? But there's at least 3 people of a different skin color behind her. Now what? Do we still think that they're not related, the 2 people walking down the stairs? Or does it look more along the lines of somehow these three men, what are their relationships to her, you think? They look like protectors. Look, one's on one side, one's on the other side, and one's in front of her. So could they be Secret Service? Could this be President Obama's daughter? The kids say that all the time. They think it's an old picture of one of President Obama's daughter. And I have to remind them that Secret Service didn't look like that when President Obama was president. And he wasn't president when, well, his younger daughter was this age, but not. But she did address it. She had much better style. That's not right? So what is this picture of? Ruby Bridges just had an anniversary, and as a matter of fact, we have a great interview with an adult Ruby Bridges in our Discovery Education collection that is talking about this concept with the students. You definitely want to show them because she talks about what this felt. So to put up this image and then play that video, the kids get that first-hand account. I've also put up this image, done this half a story, and then my next screen is what is directly in front of her. You've seen that picture of all the people with the picket signs screaming and yelling at her, right? And then I say to the kids, imagine how she's feeling and look at her face, because this is what's not even 5 feet from her, right? But the strategy here is to expose them to the information a little bit at a time and making them observe and pull the information out a little at a time so that they're really looking. Because every standards that we have, every standards collection that we have, requires students to be able to pull information from multi-modes of text. My friends, that doesn't mean a book, a magazine article, and a reading passage. It means charts, diagrams, pictures, videos, sounds, podcasts, and reading. So by doing this activity with your students so that they are getting information out, and you can do it with a picture of the water cycle, you can do it with a chart that shows population growth over the years, you can do it with anything. The idea is that they are pulling that information out a little bit at a time and developing a story. Side note to this activity that I think is really important, if we go back and we consider what we thought the story was at this point and what we think the story is at this point, there's a really valuable conversation in not jumping to conclusions until you have the full picture. Literally. And in today's day and age with social media and the way people take pictures at certain angles, 2 weeks ago I saw at least 4 different pictures of the handshake that wasn't at the State of the Union address, and each one of them had a different perspective and a different slant. That's an important conversation to be having with our kids too, right? That depending on where the image is coming from and what they want you to see, you can see 10 different things. So wait till you get the full picture and do research to see if there are any other versions out there that have a different message, right? So again, anything that has to do with digital literacy and finding information from pictures, charts, diagrams, that's half the story. All right, what time do I go to? I have a half hour? Awesome. Okay, here's another strategy. Did you hear that? So this is a listening strategy. So I want you to close your eyes. I mean it, close your eyes. I'm going to play 3 sound effects, and I want you to consider what would be your first sentence in a story you would write based on these sound effects. Anybody else annoyed that your dog right now? So, think about it. And what would be your first sentence? One dark and stormy night. About 90% of the kids say it was a dark and stormy night. Right? So, thank you very much for playing. I have a notepad or a poster or a sticker or candy up here. If anybody wants some candy. I did an homage to the fact that we weren't at Hershey. And got Hershey candy. So feel free to come and take. Yep. 90% of the kids start out with "It's a dark and stormy night," which is great. However, it's colloquial writing, and it doesn't get them to push themselves more creatively. So, if I take a poll and I say how many people thought it was a dark and stormy night, okay? Or I look at your papers and I see how many people said it was a dark and stormy night. Now I say I'm going to play those same sound effects again, you're going to start again. You are not allowed to use that phrase. You have to come up with something else. This is going to push them to be more creative, to think and really listen to the sound effects and put themselves in that place and come up with something more creative. And again, you don't have to be doing creative writing. You could play a couple of sound effects from a battle and ask them to write from the perspective of the guy in the trench. You could play a couple of sound effects from the Amazon jungle and ask them what animals do you see, what plants do you see. Like there's all kinds of different ways to twist this strategy as well. All right? So that's, did you hear that? AEIOU is one of our favorites. In fact, I'm pretty much contractually obligated to show AEIOU. Everybody does it. But AEIOU is a really great summarization strategy where all the kids have to focus on are 5 things. An adjective, an emotion, something they find interesting, something that makes them go, oh, I didn't know that. And something that says, I think I need to research that a little bit, I have questions. Okay? Lots of different ways to spin this one as well. Lots of different scaffolding. I know people who just spend a week focusing on adjectives for the youngers. Let's just think of adjectives when we watch this or read this or do this. You know, that kind of thing. I also know people who, we have the graphic organizer here says those phrases that I just said to you, so it really focuses in the kids on what they're listening for or looking for. So let's do AEIOU with this information right here on the north of Japan.
The north of Japan is characterized by its vast wilderness. A distinct beauty with a landscape strikingly different from that of any other place in Japan. The north is perceived as remote and even strange. A faraway place outside the normal sphere of Japanese life. Cold winds from Siberia blow across the Sea of Japan, resulting in one of the highest average snowfalls in the world. This harshly chilly climate is the unlikely home of the Japanese macaque. Also known as the snow monkey, these hardy creatures are the only other primate, besides humans, to live as far north on Earth as this.
I'm going to pause it there, right there, for a second. Anybody have an A or an E or an I or a O? Do you, Laura?
Majestic.
Majestic. That's a great adjective. Sir? Mountainous. That's another great adjective. Both of you may come in and partake of my little thank you notes here. Yes? Tranquil. All right, so we've got a lot of adjectives. Any EIO to use?
My O is monkeys.
Oh, monkeys. Nice. That could be an emotion too, right? Oh, monkeys.
So it's interesting climate, like what it's talking about, what makes it chilly.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact, and in fact, the fact that the only primates that live this far north are us and these monkeys, right? Which often in the kids trigger a word like, let's discuss what that means to be a primate. What do you mean we're a primate? We are primates, right? So, all right, so I'm going to continue playing it, and you feel free to allow your AEIOUs to change, okay?
They survive temperatures below 5 degrees Fahrenheit and take refuge from the cold winter in natural volcanic hot springs. Macaques have an average lifespan of 30 years and are very sociable, living in troops of 20 to 100, and on average, females outnumber males by 3 to 1. They groom each other and share the job of raising their young. The females have a rigid hierarchy with infants inheriting their mother's rank. The snow monkeys are very clever, one of only 2 animal species known to wash their food. Every year, thousands of tourists delight in seeing them here.
All right, any other additional AEIs, O's, or U's? Yes?
More about the strategy, but it's the idea of really like the chunks that you can have the like laid out
You get ahead of me, but yes.
Sorry.
So no, that's fine.
You see how it evolves.
And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. But does anybody have any other AEIOUs? Yes?
Just from the perspective of a student, hot springs in the cold climate.
Right, right.
Is there hot water there?
How is there hot water there? Let's look at that. What does it mean to have hot springs in freezing cold northern Japan? Where does that heat come from? That could be my entire intention for showing this, right? What else? Anybody? Yes. Sense of family. That's a good emotion. Absolutely. Yes. They wash their food. I cannot tell you how many students ask me what the other species is. Guess what the other species is? Although I've been challenged because there is some information on the Googles that says raccoons wash their food. All right. So either there are 3 animal species that wash their food, or the person who wrote this script didn't consider us an animal species, but did consider us a primate. Go figure. So let's talk about what he pointed out. I usually ask, what other strategy did I do that I didn't mention I was doing, and that is pause the video. Pause the video! Most instructional videos have a lot of information. I played less than a minute of this video, and think of all the facts. Hierarchies, inheriting their rank, washing their food, living in North Japan, only 2 primates, only 2 species that wash their food, all of those facts, right? The students can absorb and write down all of those facts. So you can do this. You can also do a 25 things I didn't know, where the students are collecting 5 facts only, but you've got to pause it and give them time. And here's another thing you can do, because most of the Discovery Education videos are no more than 2 minutes long, 3 minutes long. We take the full videos, we chunk them for you. Replay them! There's nothing wrong with going back and saying, let's watch that again! And playing it. So I downloaded the video to put it into my PowerPoint. But if you're streaming it on Discovery Education, you can actually play it with both the transcripts and the closed captionings playing. So there's a bunch of different strategies that you can do. So I'm just going to do Japan monkey, right? Or maybe snow monkey is the one I have to do. Let's do video, and there it is right there. So if you're playing it and it says CC, that means it has closed captioning, it has a transcript, it will play both the transcript and the words.
The north of
so
Japan is characterized by its
scroll
vast
up and just
wilderness.
let it play the transcript and
A
listen.
distinct beauty with a
and not
landscape
see
strikingly
visuals.
different from that of
You
it.
can scroll and just show
Any
the
other
videos
place
with
in
the closed
Japan.
captioning and turn
The
the
north is
sound
perceived
off
as remote
and make
and
them
even
read the
strange.
words. So many different
faraway
things
place
you can
outside
do
the normal
to help them
sphere of
gather.
Japanese
But
life.
please pause it and make them process, and then pause again and
Cold
make them
winds from
process.
Siberia.
You can see that this clip itself is only 1 minute and 43 seconds long. Okay? Only 1 minute 43. Yes?
So I have a lot of these questions because I teach cyber school, so almost all my instruction is asynchronous. Can I set the video so that the captions are already on it when the students watch it, or is that something that they
It will automatically come up that way. As long as in the description it says CC, that means it will automatically have the closed captioning when they click on it. Yep, absolutely. And I learned a new trick last week from a member of our community. I got asked, can you print the transcript? And I said, well, the way I've always done it is to copy paste. And somebody in our community jumped in on our Den Friends group on Facebook, which if you're not a part of, you should join. And they said, well, no, you don't have to do it that way. If you highlight the whole transcript and right-click it and then hit print, it prints the whole transcript out as a PDF. So talk about a closed reading of the information. Let's do a closed reading. Let's find the most important words here. Let's really dig into what it means, and then we'll watch the video. Right? So, new tricks. I love learning new tricks. It's awesome. Awesome sauces. Okay. So that's A-E-I-O-U. 6-word story. 6-word story is a summarization technique. Can be done with anything. In fact, you don't even need a resource. You can just do a 6-word story of how you're feeling today, or what's your goal, or any of that. But the idea is to summarize something in 6 words. So summarize for me the information in this image in 6 words. Dirty boys work in a factory. Awesome. Anything else? And it doesn't have to be a sentence. It can just be like, I'll put up a picture of the water cycle and they'll say transpiration, condensation, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine too. too young to work that hard, getting more to the point of why I have the image up, right? The very first time I did this strategy with students, the 7th grader raised his hand, he was the first person up, and he said, laws prevent me from doing this. And I walked out the room, I'm like, you guys know, I don't need to, but how about it as an activating prior knowledge and finding out what they know strategy? It could be a summarization strategy, it could be an activating prior knowledge and formative assessment strategy, either way, right? And I'm going to show you in just a quick second some apps that'll help you do that. All right, so let's first talk about options. It's really important to note that these strategies that I've been sharing with you are instructional strategies designed to be used in the classroom with students, but they can also be strategies for the students to explain their understanding. So this is a screenshot from my friend Peter Panico, who posted on our Dead Friends page that he taught the students about weather instruments and then gave them 4 different options for demonstrating and understanding. He allowed them to either do a make it concrete, a 6-word story, a 3 truths and a lie, or a poetry slam. And then he collated all of their work together on a bulletin board and gave them some choice and voice in how they were going to explain what they understand. So even though majority of these are designed for you to build into your instruction, flip it a little bit and think about the students using them as a way to demonstrate understanding. All right? Because that's another thing to consider. So what are some ways in which they can get smashed together with apps? This is a strategy called Facebook, or Fakebook rather. Okay? Fakebook's been around forever, since as long as Facebook's been around. I used Fakebook in my classroom when I taught chemistry. I had the students do Fakebook profiles for the elements, right? In which they had to really consider who would be friends, right? Sodium would be friends with chlorine, and so on, right? So Fakebook is a strategy in which the kids create a fake Facebook profile for a historical event, a person, a thing. And they have to really be thoughtful about who are the friends and what kind of posts would they make, right? If you did a Google search for Fakebook template, you'll find a ton of options. There are many options. We have a template, we have a graphic organizer, but there are many, many options, and you can find one that fits your needs. All right? There are also a couple of different apps and websites, and again, you're going to get these slides if you filled out the code at the beginning. So, and if not, just take a picture and you'll find it. So this one has some very specific Fakebook online templates that for creating it as a digital artifact. All right, and this one's one of my favorites. So this is classtools.net. It's been around forever. It's the fruit machine website where you can put all the kids' names in for the random name generator. But this one, classtools.net, not only has a template for a digital artifact, but it also gives you a whole slew of examples where students can go to these different examples and look at a Fakebook profile for Queen Cleopatra or Napoleon Bonaparte or George Washington, so that you can give them some ideas. And then you'll see up in the top there where it says create your own. You're not limited to Facebook. You can do fake tweets. You can do fake Instagram posts, right? We have 2 strategies, tweet and Instagram it, where students react to content either in 140 characters or less. It is written up as 140 characters or less. I know it's 280 now thanks to our president, but initially it was 148 characters, right? And students react, and then what a lot of teachers do is they have them put those post-its on the wall, and other students come up and respond to those tweets on the wall, right? Instagram is an image strategy where students get a template that looks like an Instagram post, and they draw an image that demonstrates like what they understand about a certain concept in that template. There are digital tools that allow you to make fake Snapchats, fake iPhone chats, fake Facebook, fake WhatsApp, fake Twitter, and fake Instagram posts. So this can be an assignment, right? The iPhone chat, I have done this one a lot, where it's kind of like a summary, like in 10 lines or less, or whatever will fit in a phone snapshot, I want you to summarize a historical event in a conversation between 2 people, right? Really great activity, and it's something that they can relate to. All right? So That's a tool. This actual one, I'm going to go to it so you can get the link because it's not displayed anywhere, but it's zeoob.com. zeoob.com. Zeoob. It requires cookies just like everybody does these days. Yes. All right, Do-Ink. Anybody use Do-Ink? So Do-Ink is a great screen capturing app. I used it earlier to put people in the shark. Super simple green screening app. Kids as young as kinders use it. And it's a really great way to take your Discovery Education resources, put it behind your student, because you can use images or video content and have them, right, summarize what they understand and or talk about a project or whatever and put themselves into the video.
Hello, my name is Isla and I'm going to teach you a little bit about manatees' appearance. A manatee weighs up to 1,300 pounds. They reach up to be 13 feet long. They often get hurt by boats. They have hair on their body, so that...
How old is Isla?
First grade, second grade.
First grade, second grade. Isla is presenting. Isla is reading from a teleprompter. Isla wrote that script. Isla is performing. Isla is doing all of the things that she's going to be as an adult, as someone who can explain what she understands in first grade. And if this happens for Isla in second grade and third grade and fourth grade and fifth grade, will she graduate with those career and college readiness skills that we're all thinking about? She will. And is this not an artifact that we can show? Like, what if it was Isla researched what it meant to be a firefighter? And then green-screen yourself in front of a fire station and talk about a firefighter. There's an artifact for you people. I think some of you know what I'm talking about, right? Proof that Isla has been exposed to a career and is considered a path in first grade. Don't get me started. All right. So in another green screening strategy that you can use Do-Ink for is miniature green screening. So not just the students getting in front, but creating little puppets on paper where they just cut the puppets out and you put them on a Starbucks straw because they're green, right? And then the platform that you screen in front of is just a painted box. People use pizza boxes. In this particular case, this teacher used laptop boxes. So how many people have had 1,000 laptop boxes in their home in August, right? Steal a bunch and paint them green on the inside. And you've got stages for puppets. It's great. Here's a short vowel O story by Evan, Michael, Lee, and Sawyer.
Barney Bugs got out of a cage and scared the dog. The dog jumped away and jumped over a log. Oliver chased the dog in the pond where he found a frog. Oliver's clothes got soggy.
All right. Now, both of these examples have been elementary school, but can you use green screening with the older kids? Absolutely. You just take it up a notch at the expectations, right? And especially the small stage, you can progress from puppetry to stop motion, right? And to other things that the students use to create the story, if you will. And I'm going to do a really quick commercial here for our Den community. So almost all of these strategies that I've been sharing as examples come from our Den community. I've got a couple people in the room who I know are very active, Laura being one of them, in our Den community. So I want to make sure that you know that these examples come from people just like you in the classroom, and you have an opportunity to share and get from your community. So if you go to your main page, hopefully, thank you, Internet, all right? And over here, you've got a tile all the way on the end that I have to wait until it loads, thank you, that says Educator Network. And when you click on that, if you have not done it before, it might ask you to fill out a form, but the idea is that you're going to get this Educator Network channel where you can find out about being a Den Star or coming to our Summer Institute or joining our Twitter conversations once a week. But most importantly, you can get into the Den network, okay? And then there's other resources here for community. But over here all the way on the right, you can get into the network, you can join the conversation. You fill out a form, you let us know who you are so that you have a username and whatnot for the network. And then you can come in. You're all going to be in part of the group called Den Friends. And you can go into Den Friends and you can search something like green screen. And you can find any number of posts about projects that people have done and resources that they've uploaded and examples that they've shared about green screen projects. Some of them using Discovery Education resources, many of them not. Because the best thing about our community is that they share and discuss all things good education. Go ahead, Laura.
I know sometimes it's hard, like hearing it from somebody like Patty who works for Discovery, but truly the Den online community is amazing. Like as a teacher, they are my favorite resource to go to.
And we also have a Facebook group. So if Facebook is your bag, then join the Facebook Den Friends group. And I have seen people post a question there and have 10 answers in 5 seconds, right? And like Rita, my friend Rita, loves to say, when it comes to that, I'm on the East Coast, I post a question at 11 o'clock at night because I'm doing my plans. Guess what? All of my Den Friends in Canada and even England are up. And they're checking their Facebook and they're giving answers. So because you have friends all around the world, you almost always have access to information and things to share. So absolutely, please join the community. All right, a couple more examples of apps matching. 6-word story and Seesaw. Does anybody know Seesaw? Right, so Seesaw is a really great journaling app for students, okay? And they can watch a little video that you can put in there, and then they can write their 6-word story and then draw with a Seesaw drawing picture that represents their 6-word story, right? So if you want to do a 6-word story, you also want to integrate some technology, these two work together really well. It's not the only way to do 6-word story, but it is a way, right, to do 6-word story. All right, how about other summarizing techniques like sketchnoting? Now, sketchnote is both a verb and a noun. Sketchnote is an actual app that you can get that allow kids to kind of sketch their thoughts, their summarization. That's what this student is using right here. Okay, it's an app that allows them to draw their notes. So they're watching a Mythbusters Junior video and they are sketchnoting. These are the results of their sketchnotes. There are other apps for sketchnoting, and you certainly can sketchnote on a piece of paper if you really, really wanted to. In fact, that's my preferred way of doing it. But yeah, look, Laura's sketchnoting right now. All right, but if you were wanting to find new ways of integrating technology into the classroom, the Sketchnote app, and having students summarize, they can do AEIOU, they could do a 6-word story, they could do whittle it down, they could do all kinds of summarizing techniques, but they can do it in a fashion of drawing their understanding, which for some kids is a better way of processing the information, right? All right, Nearpod, how many people know of Nearpod? So Nearpod, when it first came out, was just another one of those, hey, look, you can see what the kids are doing on the computer apps, and they have since figured out that there's a lot more that they could do, and they've added a lot of functionality. And in this particular example, somebody from our community used the strategy scramble, please, where you take a sentence and you chop it up and make them scramble it back together, and use the functionality that Nearpod has of having the kids do these interactive activities, where they gave them all the words and then they kind of had to slot them into the right place that made sense. It's a sequencing activity. Nearpod has lots of great interactives that you could use with lots of different strategies. This is just one example. I know I'm going fast, but I'm running out of time. Whittle it down is another summarization technique. In the olden days, when we did whittle it down, we used this graphic organizer where students were exposed to the information and they first pick their 5 or 6 most important words out of the information. Then they get together in a group and they put all of their results together and they see what are the top 3 words the group comes up with. Then each group reports their top 3 words and we make a list for the whole class. And then the students write a summary sentence that utilizes those words that the whole class came up with. That's the graphic organizer version. The other way you can do this is with a word cloud app like Garden or Wordle. right? Where the students all drop their words in, and then if you haven't used Answer Garden or Wordle, just so you know, as the words go into the system, the ones that are used the most get bigger and bigger and bigger. So then you can say to the students, you have to write your summary technique only using the big words, your summary sentence, right? So that again is a way to integrate the strategy with a certain app or website or technology tool. 3 truths and a lie, we talked about that earlier. A couple of ways to take that into the tech world. Have the students respond to the truths and the lie on a Padlet. If you don't know what Padlet is kind of like an interactive web page wall where students stick fake stickies to. The teacher can also create stickies. I'm trying to not use the Post-it trademark word, but the teacher also can create stickies that are stagnant, and then you respond on those stickies, so you can say truth, truth, lie, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, right? So Padlet is a great way. There's another way that I'm sure you all know, Kahoot, right? You can make a Kahoot. You can take that minute 42 second on the Japanese macabres, and you can probably get at least 10 questions out of that, right? And make 3 truths and a lie, or 3 lies and a truth. And have the kids pick the answer that they think is either the lie or the truth, and play it like a Kahoot. I'm also going to say at this point, because nobody's brought it up, I think my Bitmoji game in this deck is pretty on point. All right. It's the funnest part of making these slides, or it's finding the right Bitmojis. But my hair's gotten longer. My Bitmoji now has long hair. Multiple perspectives is a strategy in which you have students look at some sort of historical thing, or some, like it could be picture of a plant, and my perspective is the stem. What would the stem say to the rest of the parts of the plant? What would the sun say to the rest of the water cycle? You know, those kinds of things, or a historical event, or things like that. So Voki is an app that allows students to create some sort of avatar. It can be a real life person, it can also be an alien or a dog or a cat. And then they can record their own voice to make it say things. Okay? And if you're not in a place where you can allow them to record with their voice, they can type in the words, and then like more of a computerized voice says things. So a really great way to get them to take the perspective of a thing or a person in a historical event and write about what they think that person or that thing would say. I'm going to skip that for now. Here's another multiple perspectives. This is called Fun Face, where what the students do is they draw and the picture gets uploaded, and then it gets turned into a talking thing that they can also record their voice for. All right. Edpuzzle, another app. You can do any number of strategies with Edpuzzle. If you don't know Edpuzzle is a strategy that lets you upload video content in particular and create little timed quizzes that go along, like questions that pop up. So you've got all this video content, you can create these little assessment things for your students that like pop up, like, remember pop-up videos? When they would pop up and say, Michael Jackson did this scene 72 times for this video, you know, that kind of thing. That's what Edpuzzle does. Here's a strategy called paper slide videos, where the students take a song from Discover Education and draw their understanding of the concept, and then slide the pictures underneath a phone or some sort of video camera, and they just kind of like let you know what they're thinking about the particular lyrics and what the concept is through their drawings. All right, I'm out of time, of course, because that happens to me all the time. There's a couple of other ones here. 25 Things You Didn't Know. This is one of my favorite apps. If you don't know it, Post-it actually has an app that will let you take a picture of Post-its that you put on a wall or something, and then it arranges them and categorizes them and lets you click and drag them and put them into different categories and things like that. So, and then music video is the other one. Again, you'll get these slides if you filled out my form. I'm going back to the form so you can take a picture, because you can fill it out later if you want. Anybody who needs to take a picture of that really quickly before I go look to see who won my prize. Quickly. Everybody good? Yeah. Take a picture, because then you don't try to scan it now. Just take a picture so you have the bit.ly code on the bottom. the link on the bottom, and then you can go to it at your leisure. Everybody got it? Thank you. All right, let's go see who gets a prize. Refresh, refresh. I'm picking a number in my head. And we're gonna go. Teresa Morley, are you still here? Yay, Teresa gets a prize. Thank you so very much for coming. Hopefully you got some great ideas on how to use your Discovery Education resources, both as strategies and with certain apps. Yeah, absolutely.